News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. Once again, the day's news is dominated by the struggle to win a war against the drug cartels in Colombia and to shape a presidential drug policy which will prove effective for the United States.
Take yourself back to the 1980s. And I was an organized crime prosecutor, prosecuting the Colombian cartel drug rings and the mafia. I was literally living the real Miami CSI at that time.
Yeah.
I was hanging out of helicopters, wearing 357 shoulder holsters, going after the mafia and the Colombian cartel drug rings right there in Miami. I was healthy. This is what I looked like.
And suddenly I became ill, and they thought that the mafia had poisoned me.
That was fascinating to read. They thought it was the mafia.
Absolutely.
You even yourself thought that was possible, right?
Well, the doctor said I was poisoned.
Right.
And the most likely candidate was the mob.
Wow.
So what we did is we walked through all aspects of my life to find out who poisoned me. And the surprise was, it wasn't a who, but it was a what. The building that I was working in was a sick building, and it poisoned me and my coworkers.
Sick building, meaning there were some things you couldn't see, you couldn't smell, but there were some toxins in there that were really, really dangerous.
There are things around you can see that make you sick, and there are things you can't.
It's invisible. You can't see it, smell it, touch it, taste it.
Alan Bell is a former Broward County prosecutor. He's used to getting to the bottom of crime cases, but he had a difficult time solving his own medical mystery.
Did anyone ever tell you that you were crazy for feeling that way?
They questioned psychological components of it, but when it ultimately morphed into grand mal seizures, there's no faking that.
Months later, he says he discovered the new building he was working in at the time was making him sick.
The new carpeting, the new glues, the new paints, all the new ingredients were recirculating around in the air.
They're called volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, gases that can come from paint, wood, even office equipment.
And as a result of it, it injured my brain and it injured my immune system. I became hypersensitive to everything in the environment. Perfumes, colognes, hairsprays, automobile exhaust. And when I got exposed to these things, it caused the seizures. I was dying. So the doctor said, we've got to take you to a place where there's no chemicals, there's no mold, there's no humidity, there's no pesticides, there's no anything. And they found a little bubble in the middle of the Arizona desert. And I ended up inside this structure, an 800 square foot structure, tethered to an oxygen tank, in a wheelchair, for 8 years. My wife and the mother of our child abandoned both me and my child. She could not handle the illness. So it was just me and my little girl against the world. And I knew that if I died, she would become an orphan. Because as it turned out, she ended up saving me by leading me to a new treatment that got me out of the bubble. And the first thing I did was I jumped back into the legal arena, fighting what I believe is the ultimate crime that we're committing against ourselves. We are unknowingly poisoning ourselves.